Welcome to Ediscover Top 5, where we uncover the most intriguing, surprising, and sometimes downright shocking lists from around the globe. Today we're diving deep into a topic that many take for granted, the freedom to explore our world. Imagine planning your next adventure only to discover that some parts of the world remain off-limits, not because they lack beauty or history, but because of complex political tensions, security risks, and long-standing international disputes. In today's interconnected era, while borders might seem open to most of us, there are still regions where the challenges for American travelers are insurmountable. Here on Ediscover Top 5, we don't just list these countries. We unravel the stories behind these travel bans. Over the next several minutes, we'll explore the reasons why nations like North Korea, Russia, Iran, Syria, and others have imposed barriers that keep American passport holders at bay. We'll dive into historical events, look at the impact of ongoing conflicts, and break down how global politics shapes our personal freedom to travel. Why does this matter? For many of us, travel is synonymous with freedom, adventure, and the opportunity to experience different cultures firsthand. But behind those closed borders are real stories of geopolitical strife and security challenges that affect millions and, yes, even impact everyday travelers. From the strict isolation of North Korea to the turbulent conflict zones of Syria and Afghanistan, these restrictions remind us that the world is far more complicated than the glossy travel brochures suggest. In this video, we'll cover not only the what, but also the why, examining the historical context, the political tensions, and the economic pressures that contribute to these travel limitations. By the end of this deep dive, you'll gain a clearer understanding of how global events shape our ability to explore new places and why some of the world's most fascinating regions remain out of reach for American adventurers. Stay with us as we unpack the details behind each country's story. Whether you're a seasoned traveler, a geopolitics enthusiast, or simply curious about the hidden forces that control global mobility, this video is for you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our in-depth lists and insightful analyses here on Ediscover Top 5. Let's embark on this journey together, exploring the intricate world where politics, conflict, and international diplomacy come together to define who can go where and why some doors remain forever closed.
At number 10, we begin with North Korea, the world's most secretive state. For American citizens, the travel ban has been in effect since 2017. But why? North Korea's rigid regime offers little transparency, and even minor infractions can result in severe punishment, as history has shown. Without a U.S. embassy in Pyongyang, Americans have no direct diplomatic support, relying instead on Swedish consular services, a system that underscores the high risks involved. Discuss notable incidents, e.g., detentions of U.S. citizens and specific policies. Citing historical precedent and security advisories. U.S. travel advisory level. Highest risk. Do not travel. The country's strict control over all aspects of life, from media to movement, and its isolationist policies make any travel beyond a government-approved tour almost impossible. Iconic landmarks such as the Kremlin and Red Square with overlaying warnings. Maps showing current geopolitical conflict areas and sanction data. Number 9 on our list is Russia. Over the past decade, escalating tensions exacerbated by conflicts such as the war in Ukraine have led to severe diplomatic strain. In retaliation to U.S. sanctions, Russia has increasingly restricted entry for Americans. Not only are U.S. officials and ordinary travelers at risk, but the complex and opaque visa processes now involve significant bureaucratic red tape and even arbitrary denials. Provide context with a brief history of U.S.-Russia relations over the last 20 to 30 years. Focusing on the deterioration since the early 2000s and the impact of sanctions. On-screen statistics, estimated U.S. trade loss with Russia exceeds $1 billion annually. The risks range from detainment to being caught up in politically motivated legal challenges. For many, the allure of Russia's rich cultural heritage is now overshadowed by the shadow of international conflict. Breathtaking images of Persian architecture alongside scenes from protests and military parades. Archival footage from the 1979 hostage crisis intercut with modern news clips. At number 8, we visit Iran, a country steeped in history and cultural wealth yet mired in modern-day political strife. Since 1980, After the Iranian Revolution and the hostage crisis, U.S.-Iran relations have remained deeply adversarial. Even though travel is technically possible with a visa, the process is grueling, heavily scrutinized, and fraught with risks of arrest on charges like espionage. Explore how decades of mistrust and intermittent conflicts, including tensions over nuclear programs, have resulted in a near-total de facto travel ban for Americans. Timeline from 1979 to 2020 for showing major diplomatic incidents. For those brave enough to attempt entry, the constant surveillance and potential for detention make Iran a destination where cultural wonder is shadowed by grave personal risk. Raw, unfiltered footage of war-torn cities such as Aleppo and Homs, interviews with experts and humanitarian aid footage showing the human cost of prolonged conflict. Number 7 takes us to Syria, a nation whose very name has become synonymous with conflict. Since the outbreak of the civil war in 2011, Syria has transformed into one of the most dangerous regions on Earth. The U.S. government's travel advisory is at its highest level, warning against any attempt to enter a country where terrorism, kidnappings, and violent conflict are daily realities. Analyze the humanitarian crisis. Over 500,000 lives lost, millions displaced, and the near destruction of historical heritage sites such as Palmyra. On-screen map. Highlight conflict zones and areas under extremist control. For Americans, the risk isn't just theoretical, it's confirmed by countless incidents and first-hand accounts. The remnants of Syria's once rich cultural legacy now lie in ruins, a stark reminder of the human cost of warfare. Chaotic scenes of urban destruction juxtaposed with footage of oil fields and empty city streets. Graphical overlay of economic decline statistics since 2011. At number 6, we have Libya, a country that has spiraled into chaos since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. With its government fragmented among warring factions, Libya has become synonymous with lawlessness and severe instability. The U.S. Department of State issues strict travel advisories, citing violent clashes, human trafficking, and extremist group activities. Include details about Libya's deteriorating infrastructure, such as extended power outages and failing public services, and how these factors compound the dangers for any foreign traveler. On-screen data. Libya's oil production down by more than 50% since 2011. Without a unified government or reliable diplomatic channels, any American visiting Libya would face overwhelming risks, making it one of the most perilous destinations on this list. A dynamic on-screen graphic summarizing key points of the previous segments. Brief soundbite clips of each country's highlight. North Korea, Russia, Iran, Syria, and Libya each presents unique challenges rooted in decades of conflict, repression, and geopolitical strife. Their stories remind us that behind every travel advisory, there's a complex history and a stark reality for those who dare to venture in. If you're finding this analysis insightful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. We're just getting started. Stay tuned for the next segments. Overwhelming scenes of famine, destruction, and humanitarian aid convoys in Yemen. Infographics showing economic collapse and population data. At number 5, we journey to Yemen, a nation now synonymous with one of the worst humanitarian crises in modern history. The ongoing conflict, which began in earnest in 2014, has decimated the country, leaving millions on the brink of famine and widespread civil unrest. Discuss the economic collapse, including statistics on GDP decline and food insecurity. On-screen quotes from international organizations like the United Nations and the World Food Program, emphasizing the staggering human cost. For American travelers, Yemen is not just off-limits, it's a symbol of the failure of international diplomacy in the face of relentless conflict and human suffering. Footage of coastal towns, piracy incidents, and aerial views of chaotic urban scenes in Somalia. Overlays of news headlines on piracy and militant attacks. Number 4 on our list is Somalia. Once a land of opportunity with a vast coastline and bustling trade routes, decades of internal strife have left Somalia synonymous with piracy and anarchy. The absence of a stable government has allowed militant groups to thrive, and the constant threat of kidnappings or violent attacks makes it a red zone for any foreigner. Present detailed analysis of how piracy once cost the global economy billions, and how international naval efforts have only partially stemmed the tide. Estimated GDP of $1 billion, with over 8 million people in need of humanitarian aid. For American citizens, the risks are not abstract. They're backed by the grim realities of lawlessness in an environment where safety is a luxury that simply doesn't exist. Scenes of Belarusian cityscapes intercut with images of political protest, state propaganda, and closed border checkpoints. Timeline graphics of Belarus' political crackdown since the 2020 elections. At number 3, we turn to Belarus, a nation that, despite its European setting, has become increasingly isolated from the West. Under the long-standing authoritarian rule of President Alexander Lukashenko, Belarus has not only suppressed dissent but also tightened its borders in response to escalating political tensions. In recent years, numerous American citizens have found themselves blacklisted, making travel a risky proposition. Outline the fallout from the disputed 2020 elections and subsequent protests, detailing how the government's crackdown has led to an environment where any perceived political activism is met with severe repercussions. Over 1,300 American names blacklisted, strict travel advisories in effect. For visitors, this means navigating a landscape where freedom of expression is stifled, and any engagement with local communities could inadvertently put them at risk of state surveillance or worse. A blend of Myanmar's once celebrated cultural landmarks, golden pagodas, serene landscapes with stark footage of military crackdowns and protests post-2021 coup, historical clips showing Myanmar's transition from a tourist haven to a militarized state. At number 2, we examine Myanmar, also known as Burma, a nation that once drew travelers with its rich culture and natural beauty. However, the military coup of 2021 transformed this vibrant country into a state of chaos. Brutal crackdowns on dissent, arbitrary detentions, and the suppression of basic freedoms have rendered Myanmar one of the most dangerous places for American visitors. Provide background on the 2021 coup, the collapse of democratic reforms, and the impact on the country's economy and social fabric. Illustrate regions under military control versus areas of ongoing conflict. What was once a top tourist destination now stands as a testament to the rapid and tragic reversal of progress in a nation where the risks far outweigh any potential rewards for foreign travelers. Stark footage of rugged Afghan landscapes, Taliban checkpoints, and scenes depicting the harsh realities of daily life under strict rule. Archival footage from the U.S. withdrawal and recent humanitarian crises. And finally, at number 1, we arrive at Afghanistan, a country that has long been synonymous with conflict. Since the U.S. withdrawal in 2021, the Taliban's return to power has plunged Afghanistan back into extreme isolation and insecurity. With a travel advisory that categorically warns against all non-essential travel, Afghanistan presents a host of risks: terrorism, arbitrary detentions, and a dire humanitarian crisis that affects millions. Analyze the transformation of Afghanistan's socio-political landscape post-2021, including the impact on women's rights, economic collapse, and the loss of international support. GDP under $5 billion, over 28 million people affected by ongoing conflict and famine. Include personal anecdotes or quotes from experts and humanitarian workers to humanize the crisis. For American citizens, the risks of travel to Afghanistan are not just theoretical, they're a stark reality. In this environment, the pursuit of adventure is overshadowed by the profound challenges of survival, making it unequivocally the most restricted destination on our list.
As we close today's deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful stories behind these travel restrictions. From the secretive regime of North Korea to the turbulent landscapes of Syria and Afghanistan, we've seen how decades of political tension, conflict, and shifting alliances continue to shape who can and cannot cross certain borders. It's a stark reminder that the freedom to explore our world isn't as universal as we might believe. Here on Ediscover Top 5, we strive to not only list these destinations but also to unravel the complex narratives behind them. Every restriction has a backstory, a series of events that echo through history and resonate in today's geopolitical climate. And while these barriers keep certain regions out of reach for American travelers, they also force us to question and understand the intricate interplay between national security and personal freedom. If today's exploration has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to dive even deeper. What do you think will happen as international relations continue to evolve? Will new diplomatic breakthroughs one day open these doors, or are these restrictions set in stone by history and conflict? Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear them. Before you go, here's a quick recap of what we covered. We broke down the travel bans affecting American citizens in 2024 and 2025, examined how historical events and ongoing conflicts shape these restrictions, and discussed what these limitations mean for the future of global travel. It's a conversation that goes far beyond borders. It's about understanding the forces that impact our world and the choices we make as a global community. If you enjoyed this video and found the analysis insightful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Ediscover Top 5 for more detailed explorations of global trends and surprising lists. And don't forget to hit the bell icon, so you're always the first to know when a new video drops. Also, if there's a specific topic or another list you'd like us to explore in our future videos, leave a comment below. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but also shapes the direction of our next deep dives. Remember, the world is vast and complex, and every border tells a story. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the intricate world of international travel restrictions. Stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, keep exploring the hidden corners of our ever-changing global landscape. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more in-depth analysis on Ediscover Top 5.